I love nature. It's part of the reason why I live where I live at. When I was looking for apartments over like 15 years ago, I decided that I wanted to be close to the Detroit River and Belle Isle. Majority of these buildings were abandoned when I moved to my area. Majority of Detroit was abandoned. I was born in 1987, and as you know, everybody did back in the 80s. Detroit, aka the Motor City, aka Motown, BKA the D, has a long history as a center of black culture and activism. But what many people don't realize is that the city also played a pivotal role in the life of one of the most influential leaders of the 20th century, Malcolm X, aka Detroit Red. Born Malcolm Little in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, Malcolm faced early hardships. His father was likely murdered by white supremacists, and his mother was institutionalized. He spent much of his youth in foster care, eventually turning to a life of crime in his teens. During that time, he earned the nickname Detroit Red because of his red hair and the time he spent in Detroit. In prison, Malcolm was introduced to the teachings of the Nation of Islam, a religious movement led by Elijah Muhammad that combined black nationalism with Islamic principles. It was here that Malcolm adopted the name Malcolm X, symbolizing his lost African heritage due to slavery. The Nation of Islam had deep roots in Detroit. Founded in the early 1930s by Elijah Muhammad, the NOI had a significant presence in Detroit by 1950. The city's large black community struggled with segregation, poverty, and racial violence. They found hope in the nation's message of self-sufficiency, black pride, and spiritual empowerment. Detroit became a base of operations for the nation, and it was here that Malcolm X began his work. After his release from prison in 1952, he moved to Detroit, where he became a key figure in the expansion of the movement. He helped recruit new members, open new mosques, and spread the teachings of Elijah Muhammad across the city and beyond. I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy. Side note, the name of my elementary school was Mayat Imhotep Technical Academy, and we had a drill team. I wonder if it's related. In the early 1960s, Malcolm X's powerful speeches and sharp rhetoric made him a national figure. He spoke about black pride, self-reliance, and the importance of rejecting white society's oppressive systems. Detroit's Muslim community was central to his rise. The NOI Temple No. 1, located in the heart of the city, became a hotbed for Malcolm's activism. It was here that he delivered some of the most memorable addresses. As African Americans moved to the city for factory jobs, they found the nation a spiritual and social refuge. The city was changing, and the black community was looking for a new voice, a voice that would challenge the status quo and demand justice. But by the early 1960s, tensions between Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad became mounted. Malcolm grew frustrated with the nation's strict separatism and disagreements over Muhammad's personal conduct. In 1964, Malcolm left the Nation of Islam and founded his own religious and political organization. But Detroit remained a key part of his journey. After a transformative pilgrimage to Mecca, Malcolm embraced a more inclusive approach to Islam and racial unity, but he never stopped advocating for black empowerment. He continued to visit Detroit, where his legacy as a tireless advocate for black rights, self-determination, and international solidarity inspired generations of activists. Today, Malcolm X's influence can still be felt in Detroit's vibrant black community. His words about pride, unity, and resistance to oppression continue to resonate in the fight for racial justice, economic equality, and human rights. Detroit, the city that shaped him, remains a testament to the power of one man's vision and enduring struggle for freedom. Malcolm X was assassinated on February 21st, 1965 in New York City. And in 1967, the Detroit riots, also known as the 12th Street Riot, began. One of the most significant events in Detroit's history, sparked by racial tensions and police brutality. It marked a turning point in black resistance to systematic racism and led to significant changes in the city's demographics and politics. In 1968, the Black Power movement was formed. The Black Power movement influences Detroit's political landscape with the election of the first black city council members and the rise of the organizations like the Black Panther Party. In the 70s, Detroit faced deindustrialization, leading to job losses and disproportionately affect African Americans. Racial tensions simmer as the economic hardship and white flight lead to increasing segregation as a lot of the city's white residents move to the suburbs. Also, during this time, Detroit becomes the birthplace of Motown, a music genre that brings global recognition to the African American community and artists like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, and The Supremes. In the 1980s, Detroit is severely affected by the rise of crack cocaine. The drug epidemic devastates the African American communities, leading to increased crime rates and economic instability, especially in the city's poorer neighborhoods. In the 1990s, gentrification and urban renewal efforts to revitalize downtown Detroit led to displacement of low-income African American residents, while the city's population continues to shrink as people move to the suburbs. In 1992, the city's economic struggle reached a peak, with high unemployment rates, continued racial segregation, and a growing divide between wealthier and whiter parts of the city and the black working class community. In 2002, Detroit residents elect Kwame Kilpatrick as mayor of Detroit. Let me know if y'all want me to do a video on Kwame Kilpatrick. In 2013, Detroit becomes the largest U.S. city to file for bankruptcy. This highlighted the ongoing struggles with public services, schools, and infrastructure that disproportionately affect black residents.